Monday, July 28th, 2025, and the time now is 6 p.m. And I will call to order this regular meeting of the Town of Mead Board of Trustees. In accordance with the town's remote participation and remote meeting policy adopted by the Board of Trustees on March 13th, 2023, by resolution number 21-R-2023, remote participation will be allowed. The meeting link has been provided on the town's website and designated posting place 24 hours prior to the meeting. I'd like to remind everyone present, both in person and virtually, of the town's general guidelines for public comment at open meetings and public hearings. The guidelines are available online and on the entry table. There are 2 public comment opportunities on the agenda for persons in attendance at Town Hall to address the board. The first is limited to items on the agenda, and the second public comment opportunity allows any subject, whether it is on the agenda or not, to be addressed. Mary, roll call, please.
Mayor Whitlow.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
Here.
Trustee Cartwright.
Here.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Crane. Trustee Hagan. Trustee Schranz.
Here.
Thank you, Mayor Whitlow. Today is Monday, July 28th, 2025, and you do have a quorum.
Thank you, Mary. Please join me in a moment of silence to recognize the Mead police officers who serve the members of our community. Thank you very much for your time. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next is review and approve agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda tonight? May I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
Move to approve the agenda as is.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. We have an agenda for this evening. Next will be our staff report by our town manager. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Trustees, you have my report. I do have a few items I'd like to add. First of all, I just wanted to kind of update you on, as you will recall, we had some discussion over our temp use permits and the applicability to maybe some of the smaller businesses. So just a shout out to Lorelei and her staff and Jason and his staff. We've convened a staff team and we're looking at some potential revisions that we'll bring back to the board. But I think we scheduled a second meeting to go through it. We're just looking at some options like getting rid of the deposit that we feel might be able to be gotten rid of, since we always just give it right back anyhow. So it doesn't serve a purpose for these smaller temp use permits. So I just wanted you to know we're working on it, and we hope to have something probably by the end of the summer to bring back to the board for your consideration. And of course, it's working in tandem with Jason and the land use code update. Also, we did issue a temporary certificate of occupancy for the community center. So we've taken possession of the building. They're starting to put in the furniture. There's still punch list items. So we don't have internet yet, and the EV charger hasn't been installed. And there's a few things inside and out the building, but we've basically taken it over. And Lorelei she's working on a hard date for when we want to have the grand opening. We're kind of caught between if we need to do it by mid-August or we need to punt it to October, because as you know, we have quite a number of events coming up, including Community Day on the 13th, and then the opening of the memorial on the 20th. So we're grappling with that. We also don't want to open it too soon if the building isn't ready. So just more to come on that, and we'll know here in the next couple days. We also were able to issue a full certificate of occupancy to Metalworks Barbecue downtown. So they have everything they need now to open. I hear through the rumor mill that they're talking about August, and they're going to do a soft opening, not like a grand opening, just kind of roll it out a little bit. So we were excited to see that happen last week. We also, I just wanted to remind you all that we are looking for an alternate for the Planning Commission. So if you know anybody interested, we often find ourselves really close to not having a quorum. And particularly at the next meeting, we have several items. We have like 4 major items coming before the Planning Commission. And so it's getting really important that we have a full Planning Commission. We do have just the one opening, and we haven't had any applicants for the month that it's been open. So if you know anybody, send them our way. We would appreciate that. And then finally, Trustee Adams asked a great question on the intersection. And luckily we had a rendering of it. And it makes me realize, I think it's time for Erica to come back in and present this intersection and kind of go through it, because as you know, we've been looking at it, and sometimes you look at something and you don't think about how it gets actualized on the ground. And what he pointed out was the fact that it'll be restricting turns in and out of the post office to right in, right out because of how close it is to the intersection. But I'd like Erica she's not here tonight, but I'm going to talk to her about coming in and presenting it again and get any questions out. Because as you can tell, if you're watching it going in, it's a totally different configuration than what we're used to. We already have that median going to the east. And when you think about how wide that intersection is and how it's going to function, I think it's really important for Erica to come back in and make sure that if you guys have any questions, especially if we need to do any changes, we need to know it sooner than later. But I appreciate your heads up on that. So that's all my additions to my report.
Okay, any questions or comments to Helen tonight? All right, thank you. We'll move on. Our first informational item tonight is our compensation study report 2025. I will turn over the microphone to Mary Strutt, our Administrative Services Director, to introduce the team. Ma'am?
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, for the last several years, Graves Consulting has helped us out with a compensation study. Back again this year to help us out is Lori Graves and Wendy Eklund. They are on Zoom for us here today and will be presenting virtually. They do have a PowerPoint presentation about the compensation study that they did, and they'll be available to answer any questions. So I'll let the ladies take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. And probably stating the obvious, but I'm Wendy. And as you can see, Lori Graves is also on this meeting with me. And as Mary mentioned, she's worked with the town for a number of years now. I joined Graves about 2 years ago, and I did do a good portion of the study for you all this year in collaboration with Lori. So we're just going to present an overview of the process. I believe a couple of you might be new board members, so this will really serve as an overview of a compensation process that we go through to get to the recommendations that we're making for you all. So just some transparency into how we get there. And so if you have any questions towards the end or even during, feel free to yell at me. I'm going to be looking at this screen. So if I don't see you, just yell my name, or I'm happy to answer anything at the end. And for the rest of you, this just serves as a riveting reminder about what compensation is all about. So I am going to share my screen. All right, can you all see that okay?
Yep.
Great. All right. Okay, so just if you're not familiar, we are a human resources consulting firm. We do specialize in the public sector, and specifically compensation within the public sector, even though we do offer a number of other HR services. This is really the work that we truly love and are passionate about. And we do that primarily in the state of Colorado, but we do work with states across the Midwest as well. This is our team of experts. It's our tiny but mighty team, as I like to say. Again, myself and Lori are the ones who really collaborated on this project. I do have experience in public sector HR, so very familiar with the space and really appreciate the work that you all and your employees do. So just to highlight just quickly what we're going to talk about, obviously the intent and the scope of the work that we've done for you all, the deliverables that we have for you, the overview of the process. We'll look at your defined market and who we compare yourselves to in the labor market. We'll talk about your current pay structure and any recommendations we have for changes to that pay structure for 2026, and then implementation and next steps. So obviously when you do a market study or a compensation study and an update, it's really to ensure that your current pay structure and your pay ranges are aligned to the market, your current labor market, so that you can ensure that your employees are paid competitively and fairly to the labor market that you all compete in. You obviously want to be able to recruit the talent that you need, but also retain the talent that you already have. Turnover is costly. We want to keep your employees happy. We want to be able to recruit the employees that you need moving forward. We also look at maintaining internal equity, which really just means that positions with similar span and scope of responsibility, we want to make sure that they're aligned appropriately with other positions of similar span and scope of responsibility, particularly if there's not an external benchmark for those positions. And then we like to see career progression for positions where that makes sense, and also sustainable wage growth at the top end. So if you have longer tenured or more experienced employees, we want to make sure that there's sustainable wage growth at the top end or the max of that range. So in order to accomplish all of that, we're going to gather, or we did gather, current compensation data from the survey sources that we used that reflect your labor market that your employees compete in. So the two survey sources that we used are Pay Factors and CML, Colorado Municipal League. CML does still provide a static report each year that has specific identifiable cities and towns, communities with data. But Pay Factors, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, it's still good. It's regional cuts of data. So Employers Council partners with Pay Factors, that's their survey source. And they used to push out a static report every year that did have identifiable towns and cities. Now it's that regional cut. And so we use the Denver, Boulder metro area for your regional cut of data, because that's really the labor market that you all compete in. And so based on that data, we'll provide recommendations to revise your pay structure as needed, and any recommendations for pay increases for moving forward in 2026. And if additional analysis is requested, sometimes we'll do a financial impact analysis. I think your team's doing that internally. We can certainly help with that as well. So deliverables, I kind of touched already on this with the scope of work, but we reviewed, we looked at your current structure. We looked at your defined market to make sure it's still representative of the labor market that you all compete in. It is. We didn't make any changes to that. I'll show you what that looks like here shortly though. And then based on all of that data, we recommended structure changes or revisions to the pay structure, which could come in the form of position upgrades, shifting the structure, etc. So we'll talk more about that in a second as well. We can also provide recommendations for how to implement if need be for budget purposes. Internal equity, I just mentioned that, internal relative value for positions that maybe don't have a good external benchmark. Pay compression, avoiding it, right? We don't want that. And ongoing maintenance and communication. I like to meet with HR, mostly just to ensure, one, are we capturing all the positions that are currently within the town? Are there vacant positions we need to make sure that we still capture? Are there future positions that the town might need that you want us to go ahead and benchmark? So once we know that, once we have all of that, we match those positions to those survey sources, CML and Pay Factors, based on job duties and responsibilities. So we don't just match a position based on a job title. We want to know what the work being done is actually. Sometimes there's uniqueness in positions. You might have a dual role. You might have certain extra responsibilities. So we want to benchmark those appropriately, or scope them if need be. And then we age that data forward. So when we benchmark a position, we collect that average. We call it a market rate, market average. It's really kind of reflective of a midpoint of a pay range. And then we age that data forward to reflect 2026 implementation. Sorry, let me get a drink of water. I was struggling to get my words out there. The reason that we age data is because we know that by the time the data is reported, by the time we pull the data and by the time that you all implement, the data is already lagging for 2026, so we push it forward to account for that lag. The data pool does represent actual wages, and this is important. So it's actual wages being paid to those incumbents doing similar work and not just a pay range. And I get asked this question quite often, why do you not just look at a pay range? There's just not enough information there, how that pay range was established, how the position within that pay range was put there. We also don't know the pay structure and how it's designed. We have a very, we like to see pay structures that have certain distances and widths. And so the data that we collect is actual wages so that we really get some good statistically valid information on where to place a position within a pay range. We'll scrub that data to ensure alignment to the uniqueness of town's positions. I am really sorry. I don't know. I'm struggling with my words right now. My voice is going out, so I apologize. Okay, so the defined market, this is what I was mentioning earlier. Same defined market that you've had in previous years. Really no changes, but you'll see that the counties in red, we just referenced that information this year. We didn't pull it into the actual market average. And that's largely because of what I was explaining with Employers Council. They are not pushing out this static report anymore. And so this data for the county really is 2 years old. So we aged it by 6%, about 3% per year. We referenced it just to kind of see what that looks like, but we didn't pull into the average with the other communities. So you'll see that this defined market reflects the Denver, Boulder, and Northern Colorado regions, which we think is representative of the labor market in which you all compete. And the goal is really to create a large enough market to be statistically valid. So we like a broad view of the market and what it's doing for each position instead of just a handful of communities. Because if we only looked at a handful, like say 5, we don't know tenure for positions. You might have 4 of those communities with very long tenured employees, which might have, it will raise the market average too much, or it might pull down the market average too much. So we want to see a broad view, or sort of like data pigs. The more data, the better, as long as it's relevant, to get a statistically valid market average for your positions. So you currently for general government have 21 pay grades and ranges. You have widths of 35 to 50%. And what that means is that from your minimums to your maximums, you have a width of 35 to 50%. We like to see more for your entry-level career positions, a narrower view or a narrower width for your pay range, so that, if you narrow the pay range, right, you both raise the minimum, but you decrease the maximum. And so if you widen that too much, you're going to have minimums that are just too low to recruit for and have no utility to you, but you're also going to have maximums that are just not realistic for the work and scope of work that position is doing. And so as you progress in your career, we like to widen that so that you have minimums for your more entry-level people, just moving into management, moving into leadership, but also sustainable wage growth for those that have experience. So sorry, we did not provide structural or recommend structural changes, but we did recommend increasing the structure by 2%. For your sworn step plan, I don't know why I'm losing my voice. You have 6 steps for officer and 4 steps for your sergeant. No structural changes to that as well, but we are recommending an increase by 2% to that structure as well.
Hey, Wendy, would you like for me to take over if you're?
I am losing my voice. So if you don't mind, that would be really great. So they don't have to listen to me constantly drink water and try to get through this.
No worries. I'll let you control the screen and we'll go through these. So on this slide, I just want to say, right, the good news here is that the work that the town has been doing over the last several years by doing these studies every year and making sort of what I would refer to as small, relatively small changes has allowed you to stay current. So what we're seeing this year is a pretty modest increase to both of the structures, because I think the town has done a good job of staying aligned over the last several years, which is why we like to see clients take the approach you've taken, which is stay current all along, rather than only do a study every few years and lag behind and then surge forward, right? So seeing no structural changes and seeing an increase of 2% says to me that the town has been doing a good job of keeping all of those things current to market. Okay. So then from that, we'll move on. And what we've got on the next couple of slides are really just a view of what those pay structures look like, right? So this is what we call the general government structure. This is the pay structure that the majority of the town's positions sit on, everything other than those sworn non-exempt police that are on the step plan. So you see salary grades from 200 down to 400. So salary grades that each represent a range. This is what we call an open range pay structure. That means that every grade has a minimum and a maximum, but there are not predefined steps along the way. So that gives the town flexibility to be able to move pay as appropriate and change that from year to year based on budget requirements or movements within the market, as opposed to having those predefined steps, right? And one of the things Wendy referred to, she talked about the range width. And you'll see that along here down the right side of the screen where it shows width. Those entry level ranges are a bit narrower, and the leadership ranges up at the top are a bit wider, specifically for what she was outlining. Entry level jobs, if you make them too wide, your minimums are too low and your maximums are a bit too high. But as you get into leadership, you need a little bit more flexibility. So what that 2% recommendation means is that we're recommending this entire structure, meaning all of the minimums, midpoints, and maximums, move up by 2%, just to make sure they keep moving forward with market. Okay. If you move to the next one, you'll see the step plan for police. So this is obviously a much smaller, more simplified structure. A step plan also has a minimum and a maximum, just like an open range, but it has predefined steps along the way. So each of the officers know as they gain a step each year, they know exactly what that step is going to be worth, right? So you'll see that all of these steps are built 5.5%. So each time they receive a new step, which is generally annually, assuming performance has been appropriate, 5.5%. So this structure is also being moved by that same 2%, which means each of these step amounts is just 2% higher than it is currently for 2025. And one of the things I think is worth mentioning on that step plan, just because sometimes it can look unusual to see 6 steps for an officer and 4 steps for a sergeant. We tend to have a fewer number of steps as you move up in rank on these, because if you start pushing the same number of steps out at the sergeant level, you end up with top end rates that are 1, above market, and 2, beginning heavily to encroach on the command level positions, right? So we don't want to see the top of sergeant get so high that you then have to push commander or chief higher than market says they should be, right? Having officer and sergeant a little closer together is more appropriate. Those are both non-exempt positions. When you move into exempt level command positions, we need there to be a little bit more of a gap, right? So just to kind of head that one off. So then as we move, what we have talked about to this point have been what we call cost of living increases, right? Meaning the structure itself is going to move up to reflect the fact that the cost of living continues to move forward, right? So 2% would apply to the structures, which would mean each of the employees throughout the town would see that same 2% increase just to maintain the same position in the pay range next year that they are this year, right? So cost of living applies to the structure and is part of the employee's pay increase. In addition to that cost of living increase, we're also recommending what we call a merit increase. A merit increase is a pay increase that moves an employee further through their pay range to represent the fact that they now have more experience, right? An opportunity to have gained more skill set, and they should be a little higher in the pay range than they were before. So for that, we're recommending a 3%, which would mean employees on the general government structure would be looking at a total potential pay increase of 5%, 2% as the COLA, 3% as the merit, right? For police on the step plan, you don't have to identify a merit increase because those steps, those 5.5% steps, those represent the merit increase. That is how police officers move through their structure. Right? So that creates a total potential pay increase opportunity at 7.5%, the 2% COLA and the 5.5% step. Okay, so then one of the other things, and Wendy mentioned this earlier, that we do when we're pulling all of this data, we're not only trying to determine how much the entire structure should move up, but we're also looking at specific jobs that may have moved a little quicker in the marketplace than others, have become a bit more competitive, and they may need to be moved up a grade from where they are now to the next possible grade. We identified 3 positions this year through that, which again, only having 3 upgrades as opposed to having sometimes as many as 8 or 10 says to me that the town is doing a really good job of staying current. You're not having to play catch up. The positions we identified: deputy town engineer, and then a front desk clerk and a rec assistant. So you can see these come from different areas within the town and different levels within the pay structure. These are upgrades that are based on market increases for those positions, right, that have overpaced the overall market. And I think it's at least worth kind of mentioning that there are certain types of positions that we expect to see moving up faster than others, right? Across our book of business lately, the last year in particular, we've been seeing public works positions and specifically engineering positions are getting harder and harder to fill, which is driving those pay rates higher quicker than others. We're also seeing that in other technical type positions, planners. That's actually been the case for a few years. GIS analysts. We also see it specifically in water, wastewater positions, right? That you don't have to worry about, but just to kind of get an idea that we tend to see these across our book of business come in phases with jobs that have gotten hot, that have gotten difficult to fill, primarily a supply and demand issue, right? And that's, I believe, what's driving town engineer. These other positions are more administrative positions that just simply have moved a little bit more. We tend to see some of the lower graded jobs move a little quicker as the cost of living has been ramping up more rapidly, because that's the jobs that are feeling the most pressure, right, for people to be able to make ends meet. So you see that reflected in the market data. Okay, so then implementation. Obviously, everything that we're recommending here is pending your approval. But if approved, what this would mean would be that all employees on the general government scale, which is the majority, that have at least a year of service could see up to a 3% merit and could see that 2% cost of living increase that, if approved, would be effective on the first paycheck they receive in January of next year. We say up to a 3% merit because obviously that depends on performance to ensure that that's appropriate. And then officers and sergeants on the STEP plan would see the 2% COLA adjustment to the STEP plan in January, but they would not get their next step until their anniversary date next year, right? Newer employees, ones who haven't completed a year, would also see that increase on their anniversary date. And with that, that's really the overview of the process and our findings, and be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much, Wendy and Lori, for your presentation tonight. Does anybody have any questions or comments for either one? All right. Quiet group tonight. So thank you very much for your time, and take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thank
My apologies for my voice. I appreciate
No worries,
you
Wendy.
taking-
No worries. Been there, done that.
And Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
Lori and Wendy will send us their final report after presenting to you tonight, and we expect to present it with a resolution for approval at your next meeting on August 11th.
All right. Well, thank you. Again, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our second informational item tonight. It's a police update by our Chief of Police.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Brief one tonight. I did want to fill you in on the Citizens Academy. This is hot off the press today. We have set the dates for the 2025 Citizens Police Academy here in Mead, which will start September 11th and run through October 16th. It's Thursday evenings this year, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And that's 6 3-hour sessions where participants will learn about police operations, including patrol, investigations, SWAT, training, drone operations, school resource officers, and more. So we're looking for anyone interested in that to please go to our website and fill out some contact information so we can send you more details and kind of have an idea of how many people might be participating in that this year. The other thing I wanted to mention was next week, not to steal JC's thunder, but is National Night Out on Tuesday. We will have a number of officers there showing off their equipment, answering questions. Our cars will be available to see, and very special for the first 50 kids or so, we have a coloring book. This is called The Adventures of Capybara, not to be confused with Capybara. But this is the Citizens Academy edition, and it runs through a number of descriptions of what police do. Different positions in the police department can be used as a coloring book. And you might be surprised to find out who the author and artist is who created this book. None other than our very own Michelle Ray, who's our records and evidence technician, created this. So we're excited to provide that. And we look forward to meeting everyone on Tuesday night, and excited to have an event in the park. It's been a while, so I think it'll be a good time and would encourage everyone to come out. Any questions for me?
Questions or comments?
Will she be available to autograph those?
I can ask her. She might be, yeah. And if she's not there Tuesday night, I know where you can find her. So yeah, I'm sure she would be more than happy to autograph it.
I do have one.
Go ahead.
It's nothing to do with this, but it has to do with the police department. It's a thank you for I've noticed an awful lot of police activity on County Road 7, a lot of flashing lights, and I'm grateful for that because people are coming off of that dirt road at 60 miles an hour and flying through town. They even pass people over the double yellow lines. They're in that big hurry. So I'm glad you're patrolling that. Your people are doing a great job. I think it'll slow down a lot of that stuff. So thank them for being attentive to that.
Thank you. I will pass that along. Much appreciated.
All right, Chief, thank you very much for the update today, and I'll see you Tuesday.
Thank you.
Okay, next our informational item will be our events, Community Day and National Night Out by our only event and media specialist, JC Wing.
Thank you for having me tonight. I'm going to talk about two of our largest and most impactful events that the town hosts, which is National Night Out, as Chief explained, and Community Day. Marisol did tell me there was a clicker up here. Awesome. So to start off, again, like Chief said, next week we have National Night Out. That will be Tuesday, August 5th from 5:30 to 8:30. This event happens every first Tuesday of August. Every year that is a date set by the National Night Out organization. We always host it in Mead Town Park, and this year we get to do it again. This is an annual event that promotes community law enforcement relationships and overall public safety. This year for our activities, we are excited to have the Circus Foundry join us this year. They will be providing a live circus performance for the event. The last few years, we've hosted a concert for National Night Out. This year, we decided to take the opportunity to try something new because of all of our construction efforts going on, traffic impacts, and our desire to minimize further road obstructions and closures for residents. We wanted to make it maybe a little more smoother just because we have so much going on. And the Circus Foundry, because they bring all their own equipment and can set up more centrally in the park, it allows for more flow and access to the street where we might have to put a stage. So we're super excited to have them Something definitely provided us a good opportunity to try something new, and hopefully it'll be a good time. We will also be providing food. The Mead Area Chamber of Commerce typically grills hot dogs and hamburgers, free for the first 500 people that come. Definitely very grateful for them. We also have our Touch a Truck, which features vehicles from Public Works, Mead Police Department, and the Mountain View Fire Department. It's an opportunity for attendees, especially the little kids, to get up close and personal with vehicles that they get to see working on our roads or helping out our neighbors. So definitely a cool opportunity. And how often do you get to go sit in a fire truck? I enjoy it. Additionally, we will have public service, law enforcement, and town partners attending with information booths and games to match the circus and carnival theme. Moving on, if I can get the clicker. Oh, thanks, Marisol. That was our National Night Out. Awesome. Okay. Moving on for our Community Day. It will be September 13th from 4 to 9:30. That is a Saturday. It again is hosted at Mead Town Park. It is Mead's largest annual event. We usually host 2 live bands, 50 plus vendors, and activities for all ages. So this year for our bands, our opener is Delta Sonics, which is a blues and R&B based band that is local to Colorado. Headlining, we have Vixen, which is an all-female classic 80s rock band. So definitely going to be a good time. In addition, we will have 6 total food trucks. We try to have 4 food trucks and 2 dessert trucks. So we have a variety of foods for everyone to try. This year's food trucks is Urban Hot Dog Collective, Georgia Boys Barbecue, The Bite of the Bayou, Rancheros, Mary's Mountain Cookies, and Divine Ice Cream. For our activities, like I mentioned previously, we have 50 plus street vendors. They feature local businesses, crafts, gifts, and so much more. I'm always surprised to see what kind of businesses and fun little things like to come and join us. Definitely fun to go and do a little shopping too. We also have family-friendly activities and games such as rock climbing, a mechanical bowl, inflatable jousting, face painting, and yard games. Mead Area Chamber of Commerce will also have their beverage garden, and their annual cornhole tournament. So definitely sign up for that if you have time. And then finishing out our evening will be our fireworks show. Those are launched from Ames Park, and viewing just happens right here in the park. But yeah, that's all I have. Is there any questions?
Questions or comments for JC? Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Okay, we'll move on to our proclamation. Tonight it will be for National Night Out, and I've asked Trustee Adams to read the proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. Proclamation, National Night Out, August 5th, 2025. Whereas National Association of Town Watch sponsors a national community building campaign on Tuesday, August 5th, 2025, entitled National Night Out. And whereas National Night Out is celebrating 40 years of community building that promotes strong police community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie to make our neighborhoods safer, more caring places to live and work. And whereas the residents of Mead play a vital role in assisting the Mead Police Department through joint community building efforts. And whereas the National Night Out campaign provides an opportunity for residents in Mead to join over 38 million neighbors across 17,000 communities from all 50 states, U.S. territories, and military bases worldwide. And it is essential that all neighbors of Mead come together with the police and work together to build a more safer, more caring community. And now therefore, Colleen G. Whitlow, Mayor of the Town of Mead, do hereby proclaim August 5th, 2025 as National Night Out and urge all citizens to join us for this event. Given under her hand and seal of the Town of Mead, Colorado on the 28th day of July, 2025.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to sign this proclamation?
I'll move to sign the proclamation for National Night Out.
Second.
Okay. Ty, roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
Trustee Schranz,
Yes.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. We'll move on to public comment. The board welcomes public comment at this time for any item on the agenda. We will also take comments for items not on the agenda during the second public comment, item number 10. The board will listen to your comments and take them into consideration. All comments should be directed to the Board of Trustees and not to a specific individual. If you wish to speak during the first public comment period, please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Please start by stating your full name and address for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the Board of Trustees. If you are representing a group, you will have 5 minutes. We ask that all speakers and audience members treat one another with respect and dignity. Let's ensure we maintain a welcoming environment and avoid any actions that could be distracting. Ms. Strutt, do we have anyone signed up for this public comment period?
No one signed in, Mayor.
Okay, is there anyone here in the room that would like to speak to the board on an item that's on the agenda tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda contains items which are considered routine and are approved with one motion and vote. I want to recognize staff for putting this together for us tonight and the board for reviewing them at tonight's meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as is.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
Trustee Schranz,
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes, thank you very much. Motion carries for that. We'll move on. We don't have any further general business, so this brings us to our second regular public comment period of the night. We will ask for any items, whether that it's on the agenda or not. We'll follow the same guidelines previously stated. I will call on individuals in the order of which have signed in. Again, I ask all speakers and audience members to treat one another with respect and dignity. Is there anyone here in the room that would like to talk about anything on the agenda or not?
John Smith, 325 Main Street. It's been brought to my attention that I should address the board, public comment on this, but the speed limit on downtown on Main Street, it's well, everybody knows I live there. So anyway, it's become pretty crowded and cars go pretty fast. The chief sitting behind me can attest to that. I don't know how we go about getting some kind of a study to see about slowing things down, but I plan on opening up on the 14th, soft opening on the 8th. I already have 200 or 300 people signed up for the soft opening. I see an accident coming. I mean, with cars on both sides of the streets, with the speed some people go down that street, all you gotta do is step out there, you're gonna get hit. I don't know, you yourself, Mayor, said bring this up. So I think we need some kind of study before somebody actually gets hit or killed on that street. I got cameras. I can attest to the speed. I actually had somebody 3 days ago go down my alley at least 50 miles an hour. I'm not kidding. They went down the alley 50 miles an hour, did not stop at any of the cross streets and went straight down the next alley and the next alley. Anybody would have stepped out, they would have been dead. You know, I don't know how to go about slowing down Main Street, but we should do it before it becomes a real issue here shortly, and it's going to become a really big issue. The bar is drawing in more people, and I'm going to draw in a lot of people, and there's just not a lot of room there. There's just not. So we got to look at it somehow. I'm not sure how.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and congratulations on getting your CO. All right, anybody else? All right, next is elected official reports. Anyone, trustees like to bring up anything? All right. All right, we'll move on. I just wanted to say tomorrow night will be our next meet, eat, greet. Can't say it very well. At Liberty Ranch, and we start at 6 5, 6? Okay, thanks. I get my calendar right. And then coffee with the mayor this Saturday coming up. So I look forward to folks that want to stop by. So anyway, we'll move on to our 2026 budget discussion, and I will turn over the microphone to our Administrative Services Director, Mary Strutt.
Thank you, Mayor and Board, for having me here tonight. Once again, I'm going to talk to you about our 2026 budget. As we've talked about the last couple of meetings, instead of a full-blown retreat where we spend a whole day hashing this out, I'm bringing it to you in bite-sized pieces. Hopefully, you're liking this format for our budget, and we'll get to the end result of the budget in September. This is kind of where we're going. We started presenting a schedule. We talked for a couple of meetings about projects. Today, we're talking a little bit about revenues. Then we'll start talking about expenses, and then we'll put it all together for you in the 2026 budget. So this is the schedule that was, again, previously presented. No changes have been made to it. We're sitting in July. We talked about board priorities for 2026. Mostly being the words that we heard were mostly being strategic planning for 2026. And with Helen, we'll be working on presenting a budget that shows a lot of that for the board. As staff, we're working on forecasting where we're going to end 2025 and preparing budget sheets so that we can start putting numbers to that. In August, we'll continue to go through this. I am going to tell you next meeting, August 11th, I won't be here. So we won't have a budget presentation at the next meeting. Sorry. You'll get out without seeing me, but I'll be back on the 25th to present more of these for you. All right. So again, our budget assumptions that we've presented before, I've changed the wording in a couple of these, and I just want to point that out for you, but we are looking at flat revenues with increasing costs. That's the overarching that we're looking for. Minimal increases in sales tax. I'll talk a little bit about that since we're talking about revenues today. Property tax is kind of flat. Residential housing has slowed. I did say limited staffing in previous. I changed it to strategic staffing plus community center, just so that we start to mark out there what the cost is going to be of staffing the community center and having that open for operation. So we'll see that in the budget. And then again, we've seen that there will be increasing costs of doing business, insurance, consultants, et cetera. I haven't heard CIRSA's exact number yet, but they did say it would probably be double-digit increase again this year. We're seeing at least a double-digit increase in our health insurance for employees also. All right, so here I'm going to start with revenues. I'm going to start with sales and use tax. So our 2026 budget assumption does not include any voter-approved increase to sales tax. Okay, so we're going to do it based on what we know today and what we have today. What we know today is that the economy appears to be slowing. And what we know today is that there's probably going to be some new retail in Mead. Thank you, Mr. Smith, and other business owners coming to the town. We're projecting building to be kind of slow. The number, I met with the community development team last week or the week before, and we started putting numbers to it based on what we've seen recently. The reason I say that housing has slowed is you may recall kind of our high year when Sorrento built. We kind of use that as our high, right? Sorrento and the Highlands were building in 2021. We had 334 residential building permits that year. We've seen a decrease since then as the economy has slowed. 2022 was 102 single-family building permits. 23, 108. 24, we ended the year with 98 single-family building permits. We did budget in 25 based on 97. We thought it'd be kind of similar to 24. But as you see in the manager's report every week or every 2 weeks, we only have 43 building permits year to date. So staff is predicting out that we might end the year around 60. So that we probably won't hit the 97 that we budgeted for 2025. Now that affects the use tax that we have as a revenue, the building permit fees that we have as a revenue, and it also affects our development impact funds. I'm not going to talk about the impact funds today until I have a little more better numbers for you on those. But today I'm just going to talk about general fund sales and use tax. So this is our historical data for general fund sales tax. Again, general fund. So what this means is the 2% sales tax that goes into the general fund. There is an additional 1% that goes to the streets fund. So I want to be clear on that. So this is the general fund. If I go back, if I do 5 years worth of information for you, 2021 actuals, I have the actuals for the last 4 years. We're 3.2 million, 3.6 million, 4.1 million. We did go down a little bit in 2024 to 3.8 million. We had budgeted, got that number. We had budgeted in 2024 to be at 4.5 million. And our actual ended up with the audit that was presented to you a couple weeks ago at 3.8 million. Our budget for 2025, we kind of kept it steady where we thought in fall of last year we would end up at 2024, but our 2025 is slightly higher than what our 2024 actual was. We might hit that 4 million. It'll be right around there. But again, that's why I'm saying we're seeing the sales tax kind of level off, right? Let's see. This is a graph that I've never really shown you before, and there's a number that's not showing up on that slide. There's a couple numbers that aren't showing up on that slide. Sorry about that. It shows up in my picture, really pretty. Wonder if I have to hit it. Nope. Thought maybe it'd show up if I clicked it again. So I was going to do a deep dive into our sales tax, and I was going to show you our June 2025 sales tax disbursement. So this is a snapshot, okay? It's not an average, it's a snapshot. June 2025, our disbursement was $601,388 in sales tax in June. Okay. Now, some of our businesses report and pay taxes quarterly. Some have ups and downs with the market. So that number goes up and down. Generally, our sales tax, monthly sales tax are between about 180,000 and 600,000. So this is a high one. It did have some high numbers in there. Okay. So I wanted to say that straight off, but I don't have an annual to share. So I thought I'd do this snapshot for June. I divided this out into some retailers that submit high dollars of sales tax to us. Now, I'm not allowed, knowing that the sales tax numbers, I'm not allowed to release their names and their numbers. That is proprietary information that I can't release, but I can tell you that there's a handful, by that I mean under 10, who contribute to that $326,000 there. That was more than half of our sales tax for June. Okay, those handfuls are, think about, I can maybe lead you to it, right? Think about where those high sales tax revenues may come from. They may come from people that sell high dollar goods, like equipment. They may also come from, and there's a couple of those in town, let's say. They may also come from remote sellers who do a high volume of business. Okay, so again, that more than half the money that we get is coming from a handful of retailers. The blue on your screen where it shows 4%, $21,000, that's the amount collected in June from gas and convenience stores. I can put that out there separately that we have between 5 and 10 of them, right? The $8,600, the yellow, the 1%, is food and coffee stores in town. So, and again, some of these are reporting quarterly. So it may be that a restaurant, for example, didn't report in June, they report in July instead. But I think, again, it's a snapshot. And the 244,000, the 41%, is the rest of everybody who's contributing to our sales tax. I point this out because people say to me, Mary, we're building, these restaurants are going in, and Domino's is going in, and Metalworks Barbecue, we're Highland Lake Brewing, we're getting these things in. Why aren't you saying we're going to have a lot of sales tax next year, right? I think it's fantastic that we're spreading out. We're getting a good base of our sales tax, but the biggest contribution does come from some of these other businesses. So the businesses that are currently coming into town will show a small increase in our sales tax, but not as big of a fluctuation as a bad year for equipment might. Okay. I'm going to move on to our use tax. Our use tax is directly affected by building permits. So you can see that drop, right? Totally matches those building permit numbers that I just gave you. We budgeted in 2025, 445,000 in general fund use tax. Again, 1% of use tax also goes to the street improvement fund. This is the 2% that goes to the general fund. $445,000. If we don't, we won't see the 97 houses that we budgeted for. We'll see more like 60. So that'll bring that down to, 325, 350. So that is affecting our budgeting for the year. Okay. Next I have for you is property taxes. Property taxes, I said in the first slide, we're probably going to be flat for 26. The reason I say that is because residential reassessments will be in 26, which will affect our taxes, our tax remittance the following year. So residential assessments are done every 2 years. Commercial is reassessed annually. We'll see a slight increase due to growth. There are some houses being built. There is some commercial being built. We will see a slight increase because of that, and that's how we'll predict our budget. Here's the property taxes. Again, for the last 5 years. You'll see that big hit in 2024 with the reassessments, right? How it went up for everybody from, that was a big collection year for us, but it also coincided with Home Depot being built and some other, and Elevation 25 and Quick Trip. So some other commercial activities coming online for us, which also impacted our property taxes. So for 2025 budget, again, we tried to budget it kind of flat. Our 2024 actual was a little higher. As you know, with the reassessments and how the assessed values of properties went higher, the state legislature has kind of been playing with assessment rates and how much those would be. So we're doing our best to calculate what it might be. But right now our 2025 budget, 2.4 million, we'll probably come in right around there. That looks like a pretty good number. 2026, again, will probably be just slightly higher than that based on some new residential coming on and perhaps some new commercial coming on. When I talked with the planning department, the community development department about commercial properties for this year, we had budgeted based on 5 commercial properties, the library, the fire district, O'Reilly's, a building at Elevation 25 and a building at AMK. Really what we're thinking is High Plains Library will get their building permit this year. We've seen some others and we don't necessarily budget for like some of the tenant finishes and that because it doesn't have a huge impact. We budget more for those big ones. But we do think, again, the commercial's gonna not finish out by the end of the year. O'Reilly's, we hear from community development, maybe slowing down a little bit based on the economy and where they think things are going. So that's 2025. And again, as I said, we'll probably predict 2026 out pretty flat. The next slide I have for you that I just like to make sure we all have a pretty good idea of where property taxes are going to. I did cut that top half directly out of the community summary report. You've probably seen it before. And it shows the mill levies for residents in resident and commercial in town and where that goes. So the residential mill levy goes to the school district, Mountain View Fire, Weld County, Town of Mead. The other includes High Plains Library District, St. Vrain Water, and Northern Colorado Water. And if you're in a metro district, it includes your metro district. So I tried to find 2 houses and I just randomly selected on a map 2 houses, one in the Highlands and one in Feather Ridge. Again, to show the difference in taxes paid if you're in a metro district. The values are about as close as I could find them. I found a house in the Highlands for $518,000 and one in Feather Ridge for $476,000. So that was about as close as I can get it. The bulk or the first chunk of property taxes goes to St. Vrain Valley School District. The second is Mountain View Fire, Weld County, and Mead. So if you see from each house, the town of Mead gets about $350, $375 from each residential home in Mead. The other, again, you notice the huge difference, $166 versus $2,550. That's based on the metro district, right? The big difference there is the mill levy going to the metro district, which is part of the metro district financing, right, is to pay for the infrastructure of the development and the houses and then collect it back in sales tax or in property taxes later. So I just wanted to show that difference. Okay. The next slide I have is just other major sources of revenue. And I wanted to kind of point this out with the financial statements that are in your packet tonight. Okay, so we provide for you financial statements at the last board meeting of each month. And in your board packet tonight is the financial statements for June of 2025. And I always highlight in there these major sources of revenues for you. So if you've ever wondered why those numbers are yellow or orange, that's why. Those are our major sources of revenue, and I try to point those out. In your board packet tonight, these revenue sources, I think, are on page, I had the page number listed, but I lost my sticky note. I think it's on like page 40 something of your packet. Here it is. It's on page 4 of the financials, which is page 43 of your board packet. So if you want to see those numbers, if you want to see the sales tax will be listed there, the property tax will be listed there, along with building permit fees, franchise fees, royalties, grants, Metro District GID payments, and interest incomes. Those are our largest sources of revenues other than grants that we apply for and receive. The building permit fees, just so you know, is generally an in and an out. Because building permit fees, while we collect those, we also pay a lot of those fees back to Safe Built as an expenditure. So it's not a true revenue, but it is affected by those building permits that we get. All right, that's all I had for tonight on the major sources of revenue.
Questions for Mary? It's really informative. Thank you, Mary. Oh, Herman, go ahead. Sorry.
It's not a question, but have we done any research on additional sources of revenue other than the normal things that we always look at, like bake sales or?
So there was a revenue generation committee, which
Okay.
you were a part of a couple of years ago, that did look at other sources of revenues. And there's been presented, you know, to the staff and the voters of Mead, different sources of revenue, including, you know, sales tax, again, is one that we can affect if the voters allow us to. Property tax, again, people have brought forward marijuana as a taxing revenue source, but the voters were not interested. And, you know, as far as sales tax versus property tax, sales tax, again, if I go back to my examples of sales tax and where the money comes from, yes, sales tax comes from residents of the town of Mead, absolutely, right? I pay it when I order from Amazon and I pay it when I go eat at Doug's Diner, right? So residents do contribute to the sales tax of Mead. But I would have to say that the majority of the sales tax is coming from non-residents of Mead as a source. Where property taxes is generally coming from the residents of Mead, right? Residents and commercial buildings. And you generally use your property tax for those things that directly support the residents, like a rec center. A lot of communities have a property tax for a recreation center or for open space or for parks. So that's where we could look at property tax. Again, the voters would have to want that and approve it and be interested. Sales tax, you can generally, again, it's coming from outside sources a little bit more. Other sources could be lodging tax. We do have a lodging tax on the books. Our lodging tax is $2 a night. If you've stayed at a hotel recently, you've probably seen that you pay way more than $2 a night in lodging tax, no matter where it is that you're staying. They do pay sales tax too, sales tax plus lodging tax. Short-term rentals pay that. So the Airbnbs that we have and Gopher RV, they do collect both sales tax and lodging tax for us. But I do think there's potentially an opportunity on the lodging tax because ours is much lower. And if you look at the impact that lodgers are having on the town of Mead, RVs coming in and out and trying to get onto County Road 5, that does have an impact on residents of the town of Mead and on our roads, right? So that could be a source of revenue.
I was also thinking along the lines, because we have, everything you mentioned, it's all, I'll call it standard stuff that we
Right.
deal with.
Yeah.
But we had talked at one time about the warehouse occupancy fees, those kinds of things, which are something new,
Mhm.
and yet could generate a degree of revenue. I have a little concern about the coming year with the economy, the way it's going all over the place. I don't know how much we can stick our stake in the ground on some of these things. I think we're going to have to be somewhat fluid and be able to move with whatever. But things like the warehouse occupancy fees and any other kinds of things that we can, I think we need to pursue and go after, because that's additional sources of revenue above and beyond the normal.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think what I heard from the board in 2026 is that the board would like to do planning, strategic planning, looking at our financial policies to make sure our reserve is good. And, that could be something that we really look into next year is more sources of revenue, certainly.
Okay, anything else for Mary? All right, thank you, Mary.
Sure.
All right, next is, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Thank you. Just wait till she gets back to her chair. All right, Mary, roll call, please.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes.
Thank you.
The July 28, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees now adjourned at 7:08. Thank you very much and enjoy your evening.